Good morning, YouTube. Thank you for tuning in again to Day Trading with Nuke. Today's watch list is going to be very short. I've got 4 on the list. I'm going to start out at the bottom end of the spectrum with ears, moving on up to Neo, then CRON, and then topping that off with Apple. So I know there's a lot of stuff out there that a lot of people are watching, but judging by the volatility we had in the market last week, I don't think I want to touch any of it, and I think I'm going to do a little watching rather than leaping this morning. I want to see how things are going to go. So that being said, let's kick it off and take a look at what I saw in ears. Ears, as you look at on the daily chart, has been steadily dropping off. It has a nice little recoup, and then it crashes. Nice little consolidation, then it crashes. Cover pop, consolidation, crash. And then it consolidated here around the 20-cent mark. You know, it wasn't that long ago, less than a year ago, this thing was trading at $9 going on $10. So what we're seeing is in the past couple of days, this thing is popping back up almost to that $1 mark. So what does that mean for me? Looking at it through the Fibonacci, earlier this weekend, it was at about the 90-cent mark. And then in this morning, it popped up to over $1.45, and then now it's back to $1.34. So that can go a couple of different ways. What we might end up seeing this thing doing is setting itself in a basically like selling off here either before the market opens, or maybe it bases out here and it finds some support. So if it truly wants over $1 again, this could be a good day to see it bump up, and how far that could go, possibly all the way up to the $2 mark. These things are really volatile when they're around that $1 mark. Sometimes they'll get driven back down to nothingness, and then sometimes they pop back up over to the, the next step up, which would be that $2 range. In this particular case, I think it's going to depend on how much consolidation it does. If we see it break over this resistance line and retest this $1.45, I have no doubt we'll see it jump up around the $2 mark. But if it peters around and it doesn't hold this or break the $1.45, I would expect to see this thing come back around to the $1.15 range, somewhere up in there. So, yeah, okay, yeah. $1.08. So $1.15, yeah, $1.15, $1.08. That sounds about right. God, it has been a long night working on homework. All right, let's take a look at Neo. We'll look at this on the 4-hour chart here. This thing had seen a hell of a run up a couple weeks ago, and then a slow, steady tapering off, and then a cover pop, and then a consolidation. And then today we've seen a very nice, I don't know if I'd call it a cover pop, but looking at this thing from what had been drawn out before, we see a nice little wedge forming. And what I could see this thing doing is all of this gap up that it had, because it's a sub $10 stock. Well, hell, let's look at it on the daily again. So it hasn't been around for that long. It's what, 2 months old, 1 month old. So there's not a lot of historical data, but we've seen it rise, we've seen it fall, and we're not sure what we're seeing today, but we know it wasn't consolidating. We know we've got a nice little wedge here. So what I would be looking at is to see this thing basically filling in a little more of this wedge here, staying somewhere between the $7.85 mark and down around $7.30. Fill this wedge in a little bit more if it doesn't break out at the beginning of the day. Now, there's a good chance it could break out on the high side. If it drops on the low side, I don't think we'll see it too terribly much below this. But I see this thing going ahead and consolidating a little more today, and then maybe tomorrow breaking out. But it could make a liar out of me. We have the Bollinger Band up at the top and the Bollinger Band in the bottom. And where are we? Dead square in the middle. So that's why I'm not really aiming towards seeing this thing jumping out of that wedge that it's in just now. It could make a liar out of us. A lot of excitement about it this morning. So We never can tell. It's going to matter the next, let's see, 45 minutes or so. We'll see what this candle action does here, if it tends to slowly fade away. Also, the VWAP is going to be important on this today. If it drops back down and tests the VWAP and then bounces off of it, great. We'll probably see it to the long side by a bit. But if it breaks that VWAP and continues down, then I would expect to see it shorted down to around the 740s, 750s. So nothing crazy. Could be, though. You never know. It could be the runner of the day. Next one, CRON. I tend to like this one a little bit more. It's got a little more history to it. Yes, it was gaining in value. Then it had a steep drop-off. God, I've got the yawns all of a sudden. Sucks. But what really interests me about CRON is CRON has about, from the pre-market lows to the 100% above, we've got about $2 worth of range. And on a sub $10 stock, right at $10, that is a lot of range for a day. So as long as the volume stays consistent and the price action doesn't fluctuate like redunculous, the thing I like about CRON is you have a good range of movement for a relatively low price stock. So if you don't have that much money to invest, you're on the budget, you're trying to make the most out of your dollars, CRON could potentially offer a really nice setup for you today, especially if it manages to break this resistance level that it has, where it popped up to 1075 and it fell off a little bit and then it retested and it fell off again. You see us setting up for this wedge here. And the bottom line, that was based on the 4-hour what the hell you call it, 4-hour trend line. On what it set up over the course of the weekend, which I like this because it was steadily showing growth and support. And then, we lost a little bit of data when they shut down. And then today, jumped up. Now it's kind of consolidating. I really expect to see this thing catch a little bit of ground and take off. That's just me personally. I'm favoring it more to the upside. You can favor it whichever way you want. But that's just my 2 cents. I see this thing where we're at now, 45 minutes prior to the market. We're on the bottom side of the Bollinger Band. So hopefully this will kind of continue, and then it takes that right after the pre-market or market opens, breaking to the upside of the Bollinger Band, riding that high side like we did here. I'd love to see a repeat of this pattern here as we move into the active trading time period of today. That's what I see it happening. But the other side could be true, is it could hold this resistance line, and as we open the market up today, it rides this bottom side of the Bollinger Band back down to around the 976. Oh, good Lord, y'all. It's been a long night. All right, next up, and the final one for me is Apple. Why? Oh, because you can't spell, that's why. And this one is still giving me problems with the charting. What did it look like? Oh, man, this is nearly a symmetrical X, 90 degrees. This thing could go up or down. Big tech got hammered last week. I don't know what to expect, to be honest with you. If you look back where we was at on Friday, you can see where at the end of the day, this thing, set in some higher lows, which it was gaining support. But look how much it had lost from early in the day, $4 or so. So looking at this thing as having $4 total range, and this is a $200 stock versus CRON, which is a $10 stock with half as much range, your buying power goes a lot further with CRON. But strictly in terms of suitability and what you're getting out of this, for a $220 stock, Apple tends to be very consistent. It's easy to trade. A lot of people are interested. So you've got a lot of liquidity there. You don't have nearly as much market manipulation. So expect to see this thing, as you see, it's riding down the bottom side of the Bollinger Band right now. but the majority of the morning was spent riding the upside. So I think this is a correction, and I would expect to see this thing, if it can catch hold, somewhere around the start of the morning, break back over the Bollinger Band and then head back up. How high it goes, not really certain. Could be looking at about 2 to 4. And what was that? Let's see, let's call it $2 to $6 worth of range of movement. I really don't see the $6. I'd be expecting to see it cap out somewhere in here, like 222. Just basically following on the top side of this one single band that I have marked off here. So what does that look like on the 4-hour chart? As you can see, we've got lots of places where we found support at these levels before. So I see those holding out. We've got far less, well, it's significant, but I just don't think we're going to hit that range of motion today. So we'll see it. That's the 4 that I'm watching. And like I said from the start, I'm doing way more watching than I am active trading today. I want to see what the market sentiment is like. I want to see what the big money is going to do and which wild cards pop up that weren't on my list. So like any day, it could go any way, but this is what I'm watching for today, and I hope you're getting something out of this. I had a few guys write in asking me to give more of my explanation of what I see behind the stocks. Y'all can read the numbers on the chart. So let me know what works for you guys. Whatever is redundant, if I can take away the redundancy and not overstate something, let me know if it'll make it more efficient for you guys. Anyway, that's what I've got to say. And it looks like we're 15 minutes in. Jesus Christ, that was long-winded. I'm getting this thing out to you guys now. See y'all. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Let's get me up to over 250 subscribers, and we'll have some free mentoring sessions here.